The night air was thick with humidity, carrying the scent of recent rain. In the dim glow of the street lamps, Adiz hurried along the narrow road, clutching her handbag tightly to her chest. Her cousin, Chinyu, had called her earlier with an invitation that sounded both casual and urgent. "Ada, you need to come with me tonight. There's a special prayer program at my church. People's lives are changing there. I can feel yours will too." Adiz wasn't particularly religious. She believed in God, yes, but she was cautious of miracle centers and self-proclaimed prophets. Still, Chinyu had insisted, her voice trembling in a way Adiz couldn't ignore. By the time they reached the building, Adiz's steps slowed. The church was unlike any she had ever seen. It wasn't in a cathedral or even a proper hall. It was in a converted warehouse on the outskirts of town. Flickering fluorescent bulbs hung overhead, and massive speakers outside pumped out rhythmic gospel beats that seemed to vibrate through her ribs. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. Not from heat, but from the sheer intensity. People swayed and shouted, some falling to the ground in convulsions. At the far end, on a raised platform, stood Prophet Jeremiah, dressed in a spotless white robe, his eyes scanning the crowd like a hawk searching for prey. Adiz's unease deepened when those eyes landed on her, and stayed there. He smiled slowly, and in that moment, Adiz felt as if she had been marked. Prophet Jeremiah's voice boomed through the microphone, rich and commanding. "The Spirit has shown me. There is a young woman here. You are dressed in red tonight. Your life is under attack. If I do not pray for you now, the enemy will take you before the year ends." Gasps rippled through the congregation. Adiz froze. She was the only one wearing a red dress. Chinyu nudged her forward, whispering frantically, "Go! Don't resist the Spirit." Adiz hesitated, but the crowd's eyes were on her. Even those who moments ago had been deep in prayer now watched as she approached the platform. The prophet placed a hand on her forehead, muttered strange phrases, then shouted, "There is a curse from your mother's lineage. Someone in your family went to a native doctor, and now the spirit of death is following you." A few members cried out in confirmation, though they knew nothing of Adiz's life. She wanted to laugh it off, but his eyes felt like they were burrowing into her very soul. Then he leaned closer and whispered, low enough for only her to hear, "If you want to live, you must return here alone. Tomorrow night." That night, Adiz couldn't sleep. The echo of the prophet's words played over and over in her head. In the early hours, her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Be careful who lays hands on you. Not every altar belongs to God." Her stomach tightened. Who could it be? Was it someone from the congregation? Or was it God himself sending a warning? When she told Chinyu about the message, her cousin brushed it off. "That's the devil trying to scare you away from your breakthrough. Tomorrow, we go again." But Adiz wasn't sure. And in the shadowy quiet of her room, she could have sworn she saw a dark figure watching from the corner. Until she blinked, and it was gone. The next night, she went back. Alone. This time, the warehouse was darker. Only a few candles lit the corners. Prophet Jeremiah was already waiting, his robe replaced with a patterned tunic. "Welcome, daughter of Zion. Tonight, we break chains." He led her to a side room, draped in red cloth. Strange symbols marked the floor, and in the center sat a wooden bowl filled with water that shimmered unnaturally. He began chanting, not in English, not even in Igbo, but in a tongue that made Adiz's skin crawl. The air thickened. The shadows in the corners seemed to move. "Look into the water," he commanded. When she did, she didn't see her reflection. She saw a coffin, and her name carved into it. The prophet's voice softened, almost hypnotic. "If you want this curse gone, you must bring a seed offering. And it must be costly. Something you will feel." Adiz shook her head. "I don't have much." His eyes gleamed. "Then you have your body. The spirit requires a sacrifice, and only the purest offering will do." Her heart pounded. She backed away. "This isn't of God," she whispered. He smiled slowly. "Walk away now, and your blood will be on your own head." Adiz bolted. She didn't care about her bag, about the stares from the 2 ushers guarding the door. She just ran into the night. But when she got home, her front door was ajar. Inside, her bag was already waiting on the table. She lived alone, and she was sure she had left that bag in the prophet's room. The next few nights were not peaceful. Lights in Adiz's apartment flickered without warning. She would hear knocks on her door at exactly 3 a.m., but when she opened it, no one would be there. One night, she saw wet footprints leading from her bathroom to her bedroom, yet she hadn't used the shower since morning. Her phone kept buzzing with that same unknown number. "You've been marked. Leave town, or you will not see the next month." She wanted to block it, but some part of her knew. Whoever was sending these messages wasn't just guessing. At the market, an old woman selling herbs and spices suddenly grabbed Adiz's hand. "Child, who prayed for you recently?" Adiz hesitated, then muttered, "A prophet." The old woman's eyes went wide. She yanked Adiz closer and whispered, "Wash your head with salt water tonight. And don't go back there again. That man doesn't serve God, he serves something older and hungrier." Before Adiz could ask more, the woman vanished into the crowd, leaving only the faint scent of crushed leaves behind. That night, Adiz did as the old woman said. As she poured the salt water over her head, a vision slammed into her mind. She saw the prophet standing over a pit filled with bones. Around him were people she recognized, members of the congregation, chanting in unison. In his hands, he held a red cloth soaked in something dark. Then his head turned, and his eyes met hers through the vision. "You cannot hide from the altar." She woke up screaming. Desperate, Adiz reached out to an old university friend, Uche, who had once been deep in the church scene before leaving abruptly. When she told him about Prophet Jeremiah, Uche went silent for a long time. Then he said, "That man isn't a prophet. He used to run with a secret group in Wari. They use church fronts to find vessels, people they can spiritually tie for wealth and power." He leaned closer. "If he's marked you, it means you have something he wants. And he won't stop until he gets it." Adiz thought she could keep herself safe by locking every door and window. But locks mean nothing to spirits. One night, she woke to find someone sitting at the foot of her bed. She couldn't see the face, but the figure whispered in Prophet Jeremiah's voice, "Tomorrow is your last chance, or your mother will die in your place." She tried to scream, but her voice was trapped in her throat. Then, the figure dissolved into black smoke and seeped under the door. The next day, Adiz didn't wait. She stormed into the warehouse church while they were holding service. "This man is a fraud," she shouted. Gasps filled the room. The prophet only smiled, lifting his hands in mock surrender. "Child, why do you let the devil speak through you?" 2 ushers began moving toward her, but then, something unexpected happened. Half the congregation stood with her. It seemed she wasn't the only one who had begun to suspect. Uche had been recording from outside, and as he stepped in, he projected a video on the wall. It showed Prophet Jeremiah in a midnight ritual, surrounded by candles, chanting over a bowl filled with blood. Chaos erupted. People screamed. Some ran for the doors. Others tried to grab the prophet, but he slipped away through a side exit. Determined to end it, Adiz followed him. They ended up in a dark clearing behind the warehouse. There, he dropped all pretenses. His voice grew deeper, unnatural. "You could have been my greatest vessel. Now, you will be my greatest offering." The ground trembled. Shadows rose around them like living things. Adiz clutched the salt water she had brought, just in case, and hurled it at him. He screamed. The shadows shrieked and dissolved. And just like that, he vanished into thin air. 6 months later, Adiz was stronger, wiser. She had joined a small, humble fellowship in her neighborhood. No flashy miracles, No manipulated prophecies. Just faith. And whenever someone invited her to an anyhow church, she would smile sadly and say, "Not every altar is for God. Some are hungry. And they will feed on you if you let them." The unknown number never texted again. But in her heart, she knew. Prophet Jeremiah was still out there, looking for another vessel.